Hey guys, this is League of Legends Diana Cosplay Part 2. So this part is only going to be about making the Bustier because I had a lot of questions when I was making my Shyvana cosplay. So basically I'll be showing how to make the pattern and then how to make the sample so you can have a good finish to your Bustier. So what you want to do is start with a pattern. So if you don't know how to make a pattern, then maybe you can buy one as similar as possible to what you're trying to accomplish. So this is the top of my Diana cosplay. So as you can see, I have the pattern done flat, but you can't sew it like that because it's just going to end up flat and then it's not going to look nice. So since you want a nice bustier shape, I usually grab a molded cup from the fabric store. So I use that as a kind of a tool to make my pattern. So here I draw the shape that I want. Right now I'm adjusting it to my pattern so that when I sew it, it's going to be fitted exactly to my pattern. So I just trim what I don't need and make sure that it fits onto my pattern. So when you're trimming, just make sure you mark it so that you don't put it upside down and you know exactly the placing of the cup. So once you have that done, then you can do the other side. I just flipped it inside out and then cut it exactly the same so that it's symmetrical. So making the bustier is pretty complicated. It takes a lot of practice. I mean, I've been doing this maybe for 4 years, and if you don't get it the first time, don't feel bad because it took me a long time. As I was going back to the model, I noticed that my sketch was not correct, so I wanted it to be exactly like the model, so then I redrew it. Um, and you can notice that there's like a line over on top of the apex, which is the highest point of the chest. So there always has to be a seam there because you need that line in order to create that the most prominent area. If you don't have that, then you're not going to get the nice shape like the cup there. So when you're draping, use a fabric that's a bit see-through so you can see past through it so you can sketch out the parts that you need. So here you can see me drawing the line over the mold so I get the shape that I want. Make sure all your fabric is flat when you're tracing it, or else you're not going to get the proper shape. So this is basically how most people drape their patterns. So they find maybe on a mannequin, if you're doing a shirt, something like that, you can use some sort of tape that you can draw the lines that you want, and then that's how you drape. So just put the fabric on top of whatever you're trying to drape, and then you draw the lines that you need. So I'm doing all the sides, just making sure that everything's flat so that my lines are what they're supposed to be. So once you have them done, you can cut them out. And usually when I cut them out, I just drape it back on top, put all the pieces back together just to make sure that the pieces are done properly. Um, so you make sure they're flat everywhere and they're lining up everywhere. If anything, you just trim off a part that's not supposed to be there. And then when you have your fabric piece, you put it on the paper and trace it and add your seam allowance. Make sure you mark everything so you know which side is up. Um, you can put notches that will help you line up with other pieces when you sew. Usually I do that in the end just to make sure that all my pattern pieces are matched up properly. So I don't cut everything right away, just cut around it, and then when you're done all your pattern pieces, you can compare them and make sure that when you're going to sew them, they're going to be perfect. This particular piece at the bottom is actually going to be unfold, which means so the piece that I want is going to be one piece on both sides. So the paper is folded in half, and then when I cut it, it's going to come out as two pieces, but essentially I want it as one piece. So you won't be adding seam allowance to that end piece because there's no seam there, it's just on fold. So here I'm just making sure that all the pieces are matching up. When you see that it lines up to the piece, you can see it pop up, so that's the shape that I want to have. Everything you do, you can always refer back to the mold. Just make sure you have the right measurements. You measure the pattern, measure the cup, make sure everything is okay. Here you can see me adding the notches to make sure that they're going to be aligned, so that when I sew, I know that I'm sewing exactly the right piece and that I'm sewing enough. I find a lot of the time sewing can be trial and error. So if you need more than 2 samples, then don't be afraid. I know some people want to go ahead and write and do the real thing right away, but in the end I think you'll regret it because you really need the sample to make sure everything's fitting properly and it's what you want. I'm creating this sample because there's a lot of pieces and I want to make sure that the pieces are in the right place. So I really recommend you do at least one sample before you do anything final, because you're going to be wasting your fabric if it doesn't turn out. So here's my sample, and it's sewn exactly the seam allowance that I added on. So it looks pretty good. There's only a few minor adjustments that I would make. So usually you can see that it's not fitting the cup properly. It's just a little bit too much fabric on the outside. So I just put a little dart there, but realistically I'll be taking it off the paper because I don't want a dart. So you can use pins just to adjust it and see if that creates the right shape, and if it does, then you can transfer it to your pattern and just adjust that so that it fits better. So once you have that done, you can continue on to make sure it fits with the rest of your pieces. This is my front piece. This is what I have so far. I didn't do all of the lines because it would just be a waste of time. I just want to make sure it fits and make sure the main lines are in the right place. So there's a few adjustments that I want to do, but so far I'm happy with it, and hopefully I'll have some of the Diana cosplay coming out soon, and I hope that helped with anyone who wanted to do the bustier. Hopefully that'll help you, even though usually it takes a lot more explaining, a lot more training and tutorials to explain that kind of thing. If you have any other questions, you can always ask below.